quarterback on this one?
Today.
All right, then throw your pass.
Okay, Supervisor. The proposed local law is an amendment to Chapter 246 of the Town Code, which, if adopted by this board, would treat temporary signage in four different ways. First, the temporary signs cannot be displayed for a duration of time exceeding 135 consecutive days. In the case of political campaign signs, they could be displayed no sooner than 120 days prior to the election. And thirdly, then thereafter, the election must be removed within 15 days of the date of the election.
120 days prior?
As written?
4
Yes.
months prior. Wow.
As written.
And what was the first provision?
135 days of consecutive display. So in other words, the sign could be displayed for 135 days, but in the case of a political sign, it could be displayed for no longer or no sooner than 120 days prior.
So political signs can be no more than 120 days ever.
Prior to the election, but then there are 15 days on the other side.
120 days does seem like 4 months out. A little long. But typically, they don't often go around now.
Now,
September. So you're going back to, it would be June, July, August, July, August, September, and October. All right.
and then
When did we give massages, right? If we choose to?
I believe there may be some latitude, but this was drafted in contemplation of settlement litigation.
So this is worked out as part of a stipulation of settlement?
That's correct.
Okay, all right.
We'll
Look at it.
Was there a provision already in the code regarding political signs?
No, I believe that what this local law intends to do is to treat all signs, whether they be political or commercial or otherwise, equally. That's the intention.
And the 135 again, help me out?
Right, so any temporary sign, 135 days. A political sign is able to be displayed 120 days prior to the election, and then for 15 days post-election. So,
Well, let's make it, you might not be able to do this. What's an example of a temporary sign? Like Ian Jones, or they put the
yeah, it could be. Well, the temporary sign, though, per definition, is non-commercial content.
non-commercial content. And somebody, like, give me an example. Lost cat, or
Yeah, I guess.
on sale, or
Art sales.
To be repeal Obama.
reveal development.
That's not an election. Just give me an example.
Okay.
That's non-political because it's not an election. That's the difference. That would be non-political because there isn't an active election for President Obama at the moment.
But I didn't know that you ever, I'm looking back at Timmy, I don't want to pick on him, but I didn't know you could ever put up temp. Can anybody help me here?
Well, Mr. Supervisor, you can have temporary signs such as for sale signs on the front yard of your property.
Okay, all right.
Things like that.
A broker puts a
A
sign.
broker puts a sign up.
Construction
advertising.
guy puts a sign in, I did this beautiful work.
Correct, bingo.
Okay, all right. And that's 135.
That's
It's
100.
an odd number, how do they get that?
Yeah, to be honest, Supervisor, I'm not sure how we determine that number.
All right.
We'll look into it. And then there's a fourth restriction that any temporary signs cannot exceed 64 square feet in surface area. So that's a limitation on the size.
All right.
That was in the code already.
Yeah, I believe it was. Yeah, there was some type of size regulation.
And this all emanates from litigation?
Litigation.
Okay.
So there was something in the code with regard to which portion, I'm confused.
There have been restrictions on placement, ordinary time, place, and manner restrictions, but the purpose of this amendment would be to treat political signs and non-political signs
No,
equally.
I understand the purpose of this, I'm just trying to equate it with what may have existed already.
If you'd like, I was going to say, if you'd like, I could go back and pull what is on the books in the code now. Supply to your
I'm
office.
just trying to make a comparison as to what we have and what is changing too.
Yeah, we can find
That's
out.
my
Sure.
strange logic.
Donna, can you help us? Because I know.
Yes, I'm just pulling it up right now.
All right, if you can, we'll take it. I always thought that a lot of the things we're talking about for sale, those were kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? Not necessarily regulated, but things that we tolerate in the community, and nobody really gets. like, it's kind of like, the rules of the road kind of thing.
Right.
Like you don't park in front of your neighbor's house, even though you perfectly can, but you typically don't. All right, let's see. This way, are we open regular, Get ourselves crazy with this. So non-political, non-commercial signs, this is the 135 consecutive days.
That's right.
Like, put
But
up
that-
134 days, take it down a day, and put it up another 135.
That would be, yeah, that might be one way. I mean, it hasn't been tested, but that might be one way to escape this.
Right. Well, we'll look at it, we'll look at it a little more closely.
I should mention, the way this local law is written, the temporary sign includes, as a part of the words, a portion of the temporary sign, the political sign. So the 135 days is equally applicable to political, non-political signs, just the way that 135 days is calculated.
But political signs, I understand, could never be more than 120 days, right?
Except that you get 15 days after the election to take it
We
down.
take it to 135,
135.
but it never goes beyond 135.
Correct.
All right, well, I don't know that we need to, anything you can tell us about the help of the council?
No.
You can certainly supply it in writing if you'd like.
Yeah, no, we can, you don't need to do it this moment, but I thought it might be readily available.
It was.
All right, well, let's not go get crazy. Do you have anything further?
I do not.
Okay. I have no other forms from, what's that, oh, Robert, come on up. What's that?
The list was under exempt signs.
Just hold for a second.
Temporary signs drawn would be building construction, architectural signs, an event for non-for-profit event, that would be non-commercial
Non-commercial.
signs. An exempt sign would be a zoning sign.
What do you mean, our sign? Oh, a sign.
Right, if you were gonna have a
This
zoning
property is
sign.
subject, such and such a date, yeah, okay.
I believe political signs fall under that.
Oh, they'll give us the same temper, okay, so now I understand, it's separated out. Okay, Bob, what do you got?
Who's counting the days? There's no permit required, correct?
I'm gonna ask you to do it.
So how does this law change, which I understand is a result of a lawsuit, but who counts and who, how do you even begin to try to enforce something like that?
Well, the enforcement question is separate from the enactment, obviously. I guess we'll have to sort all that out.
Yeah, of course.
We're gonna have a sign checker 1, sign checker 2. Yeah, it's gonna largely be complaint driven, I would assume. All right, is there anyone else who cares? Robert, come on up.
Hello, my name is Robert Ripp. I'm from Massapequa, New York. I have a question in relation to the hearing itself. I'd like to know, was there a requirement, or is it usual that the town passes a resolution authorizing the clerk to advertise a hearing? And I'd like to know if that was done for this hearing, and if so, how this hearing was advertised, because aside from the calendar that was produced on Friday, I didn't see anything, and when I was looking at the draft resolutions, I didn't see any backup information or anything. Quite frankly, I wasn't able to, I don't know anything about it. I'd just like to know if you were even supposed to be having the hearing right now.
It was advertised in newspapers.
Was it?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry, great, I didn't see. You don't need a resolution to advertise it? You don't need authorization? Because I notice sometimes I see them, excuse me?
I do get authorization.
Oh, so do you have the resolution number that authorized for this hearing?
We have to look at it. We'll get it.
All right, thank you very much.
Okay. What goes advertising in the papers?
Yeah.
Oh, very good. I have, I see no other takers. Anybody want to address the board relative to this matter? Seeing no takers, Mr. Roday, you want to wrap it up or good? I assume you're urging passage of this?
Well, only insofar as it would resolve the litigation, but obviously any local law is subject to the discretion of the board.
All right, well, if we have any problems with it, obviously, we'll come back to you, but see how it goes.
Very good, thank you.
All right, thank you. Jim, any correspondence? Mr. Upperton, any correspondence?
We have affidavits of postings and publications, there are no other correspondence.
All right. Mr. Muscarone, I'll take a roll.
Supervisor, I make a motion that this public hearing be closed and the decision be reserved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, so moved. And we will proceed with the call of the regular action calendar.
May I have a motion to adopt resolution number TF 1560? On the motion.
So moved.
Second. Motion made by Councilor Muscarella, second by Councilor Bryan. On the vote, Supervisor Venditto?
Before we do, hold on. I didn't see these forms.
Oh, there is a speaker.
Okay, you'll have to tell me when the speakers.
Okay.
We need to call the speaker. You're going to get, I don't think we have anything before us, so if you want.
You're on this one? So is Robert.
Okay, you want me to come up now?
Do we have anything before us then? Do we have the motion?
Yeah, 1516, but I think, I don't think you tell me how to do it, but if we want to have speakers speaking on multiple resolutions, should we not have the whole calendar?
Oh, it's TF 15.
What? Yeah, but-
15-16,
You know what?
sorry, I missed.
Why don't we, until we get a better handle on this, why don't you just call the calendar, put it before the board, and just bring each speaker up and let them talk about what they want to talk about?
There was a table in the middle.
What?
There was a table in the middle.
So let's take the table first,
Pick the table.
do that.
May I have a motion to table resolution number 443, 2016?
I make a motion to table 443.
Second.
All in favor? Opposed, so moved. And now, Mr. Upton, if we just, I guess, get the whole calendar before the board, it's the simplest way to do this.
We have a motion to enact action calendar TF 15 through 502.
Through and including
502.
502.
On the motion.
And then the suspend, we'll do that.
There's a suspend, we'll do that.
Okay.
On the motion.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, now we'll just, I'll just call the speakers in order. Robert Fryer.
Good morning.
Morning.
So first on the transfer of funds, I know there's always a lot of transfer of funds. Is that just unanticipated when you create the budget or you suddenly discover that we don't need this, so we'll move this to that? Like I see $6K from academic enrichment to supportive services. So like, for example, what is academic enrichment within the town that you suddenly don't need to spend that money on, and to move it to supportive services, which says it's books and supplies. There's also $6K again for academics, so that's $12K in academic, or 6, 12, $18K in academic enrichment that was moved to combination of books and supplies, transportation, supporting services, which is listed as testing. So I'm just curious why that, and then I also see $25K from salaries to Social Security. Isn't that, aren't those known costs when you make the budget in the beginning of the year? And so why would there be surprises that, for example, the Social Security money needs to be transferred from something else that was planned for?
Well, I think as you well know, a budget is a guesstimate. Some costs are fixed, others are not. I don't know in particular about these costs, but we'll get somebody from, who's here? Tom, you want to answer, Tom?
Sure. Supervisor, these are all federal funds. It's provided through the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act. And with these funds, the town runs a program where we sponsor folks for job training or help folks with their job search efforts. So every year, our fiscal year runs from June to July every year. And we receive information about what our allocation will be, and we project what we expect to spend the funds on. But what we can't predict in the beginning of every year is exactly how many people will apply for and be sponsored for training. So we establish these lines in the beginning of every year using projections on what we'll spend, and then make these transfers to adjust as actual figures vary from our projections in the beginning of the year.
I think that's,
So are these, so the people that are selected for this, are they actually paid a salary? Is that why Social Security is part of that?
I'm not sure what you're asking.
No,
I'm curious, if it's
I'm not sure Social Security means what you think it means. That's what I'm not. Colin, you going to say?
well, so some of these federal funds go to the salary of the town staff that run these programs. So we have employment counselors and the like that work in our resource room that assist people with the job search. So that references the payment made towards that employee.
This program has been ongoing like for as long as well. I don't know about the town, but I think it changes acronyms every so often.
That's right.
Yeah. But it's all federal funds involved here, Bob.
Okay.
Matters to you.
Thank you. Curious why you tabled 443.
443. I think Mr. McEnroe, you was worried.
I wanted some more information on it.
Okay, 442, reappointing, well, a bunch of 442, say through, looks like 444, with the exception of 443. These are all people being reappointed to the Oyster Bay Housing Authority. Is that the same people that were involved in the current, federal lawsuit that created these rules? And, how are you choosing who to appoint to these?
444 were people who live in the authority, were voted in by their own people.
They're selected by the tenants.
442.
Oh, great, okay, thank you for clarifying that, I appreciate that. 445, this is a resolution for outside legal counsel for an additional $95,000, and I know you say budgets are best guesstimates, but I would think that would be pretty, why such a huge cost overrun?
I guess if we could control the future and whether or not lawsuits ensue or don't ensue, I think you'd be right, but we can't do that. We don't have that ability. Who are you appointing?
This isn't about a lawsuit.
Oh, hold on, Bob, please, don't interrupt.
Frank Scalera, only in that, it's about personal injuries.
Frank, I think this is the increase to the Cascone firm.
Yeah, that's pretty straightforward. Cascone and Cloughville is one of the firms that handle outside negligence work for us, trips and falls, car accidents and the like. That number represents cumulative bills. I'll give you the exact number. I've checked upstairs in my office, but it's not just one. It's work done. I think we owed it for several. Okay. So if you want me to go upstairs now, I can get you how far back it goes. Otherwise, I can get to you afterwards and email to you.
All right, but the bottom line answer to the question is if at any given point in time, we could use our crystal ball and see how many people are going to slip and fall in the town, or how many people are going to have accidents, then we could obviously,
of course,
it would need increases.
So that would be for the self-insurance program?
Yeah,
of course.
Okay. Okay. 459, could you just explain Woodbury Realty Holdings Corp.? I see I read the backup, and it seems like every year they get a one-year extension that's built into their contract. Just not sure what that is.
I'm sorry, Bob, which number was it?
459?
459?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. What about it? I'm sorry, what about it?
Could you explain what it is? Because I noticed it's a continual one-year extension that's in the contract, and I'm not really sure what it is.
Lenny or Rob or this is one where we're waiting on Nassau, they're waiting on Nassau,
Yes.
on Nassau County.
Yes, it is.
But I asked the same question. I think this is where the applicant is waiting for some information from Nassau County before we could actually go ahead with their CO, right, Jimmy?
That's correct. The board approved an application about 5-6 years ago. They're currently in the process of getting subdivision approval from Nassau County. The planning commission, once that's obtained, they can then come back to the town for their building permits.
But having said that, we would typically, in situations like this, I don't want to say with great liberality, but we tend to be very reasonable. Sometimes there's other problems that we weren't able to obtain financing, there were delays in construction, things of that nature. On the one hand, you want to keep a rein on the situation, but on the other hand, you don't want to lose a potentially good tenant in the town after they've had presumably a zoning approval or permits issued at the least. So we tend to be somewhat liberal in the granting of these extensions, but that's the reason for.
Is that common for something to take years like that to get permits from Nassau County?
Yeah, I think it probably is. Yeah, my guess would be yes. Go ahead.
Construction road, yes, it is counted.
Okay.
So there you go.
Okay, thank you on that. And 465, 57K for special counsel services to the town attorney relative to employee representation. So I'm not asking the details of what the employee representation is, but who chooses that law firm and that gets to represent the employee, and how is that done?
Town attorney's office.
So the town
Attorney's office.
The town attorney's office chooses who represents your employee.
I think that's the answer we were given.
Okay. 466. 466. I know there is I understand this has been going on for quite some time regarding the building the Syosset Fire Department Memorial Park, across the street, I think, right?
Yes. Across the street from the firehouse.
Yeah. I'm wondering, I saw in a further down, or in some of the backup, that's costing around $65,000.
I know what you're going to ask. I asked the same question, I don't remember the answer. There's obviously was a problem here because I think the bids came in higher than it was allocated for the project, but then down the line, we do have a $60,000 allocation, I think, for architectural services. I don't know that that's inconsistent, but it did strike me as odd too. Leslie, it looks like, Deputy, it looks like you have the answer.
So, Resolution 466, this is to reject the original bids that came in too high and to allow us to go out to bid again.
Right.
Our estimate is around $250,000. We scaled down the plans, we eliminated some of the items in the project, and we're going to go out to rebid. Further down, I'm not sure exactly which resolution it is.
It's about another
194, thank you. That is to allow Nassau Suffolk to do the construction management for the project. It's going to be a 13-week project, and to also prepare the bid documents for the scaled-down version.
Oh, okay. So they're not inconsistent.
Right, no.
Now, is the estimate, the $250K estimate, that's town money?
I think it's town money, but it's also our estimate as well.
That's correct.
By our experts.
They purchased the property, we're designing and building the memorial.
Just out of curiosity, sorry, Bob, I don't remember if the numbers were in there in the backup, I'm not sure. How far off the bids?
For the original project?
Yeah.
It came in around 491, so we scaled down the project
Oh, I see.
tremendously.
I got it.
Is that something that the board would consider? Certainly no disrespect to obviously honor anyone associated with 9/11 to the utmost is very important, but still $250K when the town is pretty much broke. Is that something that could be put off for another time?
I don't know that we need to do that. We'll certainly take that under advisement. I think in view of the subject matter, we'll find a way to get it done. Bob, I'm sorry to tell you your time is up, so thank you for your input. Paul Molinari. Paul.
Good morning, Mr. Supervisor and board
Good
members.
morning, Mr. Molinari. We start with you about 465.
I want to address it in general first, then each.
Go ahead.
At the last board meeting, you, Mr. Supervisor, laid out some dramatic budget cuts for next year to right the town's financial condition. So why not start today? Several of these resolutions before you are they really needed to be approved. We just heard about 465 where we're expending $57K for outside counsel. Why isn't the town attorney's office addressing it?
I believe the backup indicated the reasons why, but go ahead.
466, yeah, is another rebid, $250,000 in conjunction with 494, that's $60,000 for construction management, that's $300,000. We also have on 477, why not have town employees perform the work instead of awarding a contract for almost $400,000 for tree cutting? I know the town has people who are capable of doing it. I've seen them doing it on Duffy Avenue a couple of weeks ago.
I think, Paul, I think I already answered it. I'm trying to remember how many we did here, but I think as I told Bob Fryer, we'll take a look at the Syosset project, again, in view of the nature of the memorial.
I can understand.
Well, let me finish. Probably be inclined to go ahead. The reasons for the outside counsel was made very clear in the backup about, the level of competence or the level of competence in a particular area to handle the matter. I think that was made pretty clear. I don't really want to fool around legal representation. On the issue you're on now, I don't want to put anybody on the spot, but on the requirements contract for tree removal, it's always been my understanding that it's a pretty overwhelming contract. I don't know that we have the wherewithal to do it ourselves, but if anyone from the Department of Public Works or Highway can, yeah, I see John there. I hate putting people on the spot though. John, you all right with this?
With regard to that tree removal, that item.
You want to come up? Everybody gets a good look at it. Little heat on you.
With regard to the tree removal, those were all driven requests that we had to address at that time. Moving forward with the new contracts, we'll be addressing it differently.
Okay, but the amount of work under these contracts is pretty significant. Can you quantify it?
I'd have to say about maybe 1,200 requests a year. So it is a large volume.
Okay. All right, thanks, Bill. Yeah, we'll continue.
Well, my overall point is that we are continuing, in my opinion, to continue to do business as usual.
But that's right. I'm going to stop you there, Paul. And I don't want to debate you, but I do want to tell you this. You're only seeing what we're doing. You're not seeing what we're not doing. So just keep that in mind. I don't want to take up more of your time.
All right. The only other question I really have was that's, those resolutions were for awards of new dollars. And my concern is, as I said, is that we are continuing to award contracts and we don't have money. The only other question was on 496, which is an award of a contract, which I understand why it's being done. It's been discussed at other board meetings. My only question there is this the low bidder? There was only 3 bidders on the contract for that work, and is this the low bidder on the job?
I believe it is, Paul. But you make a good point about that. We have a lot of turf fields that are going to need to be refurbished. I wouldn't mind asking our liaison on the parks or our parks commissioner to see about getting someone to sponsor some of this stuff. I don't think kids would mind playing on the Dick's Sporting Goods Field at John Burns Park or skating at the Coca-Cola Ice Center at Beth Page. It might be time to try to raise some funds that way by getting sponsorships.
Very good idea.
Very good idea.
The only problem is, I will tell you that in the past, we have done this, and it hasn't gone over too big with leagues and lot of residents had objections to it. I'm just telling you what has happened in the past, not necessarily telling you that's going to happen again in the future, but it's an idea that, it's an excellent idea. Tony's original report going back a few years, so maybe things have changed, but a lot of people decried the commercialization of fields and the advertising and turning it into a, I don't know, something that they didn't find appropriate. But we can pursue it.
One other thing I wanted to say, I believe, and frankly, I believe this came in significantly under our engineer's estimate as far as the cost is concerned.
It was about 80,000, 100,000 invested.
But Paul, just remember that you're only seeing what we're going forward with. You're not seeing what we're not going forward.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Paul. Robert Brett, Robert.
Yeah, I'm Robert Ripp again from Massapequa. Before we begin, I just want to make sure, the rules are I get 3 minutes for each resolution I'm addressing. That's my time, right? 3 minutes?
No, I think you get...
Or is 3 minutes altogether?
10 minutes.
10 minutes. Hold on. Everybody stop. Somebody read the rule, let's get it right. Depends on how many, you have, obviously you exceed any number, so. Isn't it 3 minutes, 2 to 6?
Right, we're speaking for 3 or more
10 minutes
resolutions.
is 10 minutes. I believe you got 10 minutes, Robert.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm comfortable, I just want to do that. You always have to read the statute, but I don't think in this case.
Resolutions during the period identified as opportunity for the public to address the board on agenda items only. Speakers shall identify all resolutions they wish to speak on. Speakers shall have 3 minutes to address the board on a given resolution. A total of 6 minutes if the speaker is addressing 2 resolutions, and a total of 10 minutes if the speaker is addressing 3 or more resolutions.
Okay, that's good. And now this isn't charged against your time, but the rule is 3 minutes for one, you get 2 for 6 minutes, and then all you can eat for 10 minutes.
Okay.
So you got 10 minutes, go.
All right, thank you.
I can hear you, I get used to it.
All right. This is in regards to the transfer of funds. This is a memorandum docket dated August 22nd. You're transferring $25,000 from salaries regular to $25,000 into salary Social Security. And from what I understand, when somebody works, you pay Social Security tax and then your employer has to match it. So first of all, I'd like to know, are you transferring this money actually from an account designated to pay salaries to pay the town's portion of the Social Security they have to match, number one? And then I'd like to know, have all the quarterly payroll tax returns been filed timely? And I'd also like to know, are all the payroll tax liabilities current? And are all the pension contributions current? You can file your tax payrolls without being current. So those are my questions on that. And then to get into resolution 465. I'd like to know, this is a resolution, when you read the resolution, you're making the decision, and it seems the decision was made by information you discussed in a past executive session. So I'd like to know if, even though you didn't, when you came out of the session, I don't believe that you announced any action was taken. I'd like to know if this would be considered as if you're taking action based on that executive session, and if so, would the transcripts of that executive session then be made available to the public? I'd just like to point out to you that Resolution 476, I couldn't find any backup information, just the resolution itself. 477 and 478, again, you're allocating $1 million to laser. I know people spoke about the tree requirements, but I'd like to bring to your attention that, at least in my neighborhood recently, the power companies, I understand, received a grant. The town came in and took all the lighting fixtures down. The power companies came in, they trimmed all the trees, they put some additional wire whatever up to support the power supply so we wouldn't have any problems, and we moved on. So, you know, do we really need to go for $750,000 for possible tree trimming after that? Resolution 486, I'd like to know how much total we spent to date on this Liberty Industrial Finishing site so far. Resolution 495, this is an interesting one. It seems like the resolution, it seems as if the Rich Betts and, let me pull this one out, I'm sorry. Okay, this resolution is Commissioner Betts and Sidney Baum, Frank and Tomaso's company. Apparently they're asking for an extension of time based on problems that this construction company, or I can't really read the resolution, it's really blurred, but they're asking for an extension of time based on problems that the individuals involved here are having. And what I'd like to bring to your attention is that the same company, Sidney Baum, in the Stillwater Avenue road reconstruction, you actually approved payment for that company because they lost time due to inclement weather. So I'm curious how this goes both ways. It seems like on one hand we're paying people because they couldn't work based on weather or whatever the issues were, and on the other hand we're granting them extensions when they can't do the job on time. And then 496, this is the turf fields. I really like to know what the shelf life of these turf fields are. The town has spent millions and millions of dollars installing these turf fields. We found all sorts of contaminated material at all the sites, and we replaced everything. And now it seems this is the second one in the last couple of months that's coming up to be redone. I mean, it's a great possible solution Mr. McInerney made to get some funding in here, but I mean, what's the shelf life? Are we going to be looking for millions of dollars every 5-10 years on these fields? Maybe we should go back to grass. All right, resolution 496. Oh, sorry, I just spoke about 496, I'm sorry. Resolution 497, I'd like to know who this gentleman, Mr. Spagnolio, is and what he does for the town, what his position is.
I think that's our deputy town clerk.
Deputy town clerk? Oh, thank you very much.
We've actually got many letters. We should know them.
Oh, thanks for correcting me. There's a lot. Okay, I should know. All right, I'd like to know in resolution 501 and 502. Okay, this is what I was speaking about earlier. These resolutions directing the town clerk to publish a notice of hearing to consider a local law. So I'd just like to know, I asked earlier, is that the normal format for that?
And
that covers all the resolutions so far.
Rob, in particular, I'd like to roadrunner up there.
10 minutes.
In particular, what you want to know though is on the hearing that was held, hearing number 2, you want to know if there was a notice, a publication notice on it.
Right, but I really like to know the information about the federal tax payments.
Okay, I heard parts of that. I got ambushed when I went in there.
You want me to repeat it? Am I allowed to repeat it?
Yeah, I do exactly, so I understand.
It's very important.
I went in and used the men's lounge and I got...
What I'd like to know is, this transfer of funds, it looks like it's coming out of salaries regular, which unfortunately we were talking about layoffs and everything, and it's going into Social Security. And the way I understand it is when you work, you pay into Social Security, I know I did, and then your employer matches it. So I'd like to know if you're actually taking the money out of the account that's designated to pay people's salaries and paying the Social Security contributions, or you're matching, the town's matching requirement. And I'd also like to know, have all the quarterly payroll tax returns been filed timely? And I'd like to know, are all the payroll tax liabilities current, because you can file your tax returns without being current? And I'd like to know, are all the pension contributions current?
All right, I don't know, Colin, is any of that pertinent to the transfer? I'm still not clear on that.
No, I really have to defer to somebody from payroll or possibly Rob to expand on something like the...
Yes, all the questions about whether we're up to date on things, that's for the controller's office, and we can say in no uncertain terms, we're up to date with payroll, we're up to date with pension, retirement system, we're up to date on all of our bills.
So you're up to date with the Social Security payments?
Absolutely, 100%.
Okay, thank you.
All right, by the way, Rob, apparently the ad for the hearing this morning on the local law, hearing number 2, appeared in a newspaper of general circulation here in Nassau County Newsday on Thursday, August 18th.
Okay, that's great. I'm more interested in the resolution that authorized the clerk to publish that ad.
I think I have a copy of that too. Why don't you give Mr. Rip copies of these so we got it? You need all these pages or we just get away with this? I think this is all we need. This is the legal notice.
That's the legal notice.
And this you have to leave the publication. You can have all this back. Okay, hey Robert, thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right, you will. All right. Back to you, Mr. Roberts.
Never does.
Motion was made by Councilman Mastrella, second by Councilman McIntyre. We have no other speakers, right?
I have no other formal persons who indicated that they care to address the board relative to the regular acting calendar. Is there any takers out there who do want to address the board? All right, seeing none, Mr. Aldonado, if you would go for a vote.
Supervisor Lindell?
Vote aye.
Councilman Mastrella? Aye. Councilman McIntyre?
Aye.
Councilman Cash.
I all except 466, 468, and 494, as they relate to Sasser Fire Department. I abstain on those three.
466, 468, and 494.
Yes.
Councilman Pinto?
Aye.
Councilwoman Alexis? Councilwoman Johnson?
How could you question them? They don't have to instant signature.
Motion to adopt resolutions TF 15-16 through 465 passes with 7 ayes.
Hold it, Rob. Hold on. I thought so, and I'm doing too many things. My fault. I apologize. Resolution 502, doesn't that call for the vote on second hearing?
Yes.
Yeah. I know, I read it last night, and I just forgot. And by the way, on 491, I hate to be picky, if you look at 491, I think you identify the boundaries of the street fair, the upcoming street fair, the North End Street Fair, it's Nassau Street, it's Nassau Avenue. I used to live on that lot, that's why I get upset. But it's not correct. I mean, it sounds like Humphrey Bogart in the King Music. Yeah, remember that? You're not old enough to remember it. So it was Nassau Avenue, not Nassau Street. But more importantly, on 502, but I think we're going to, in light of the dialogue that transpired today, what I meant to do was, I guess, table the decision, at least for another meeting anyway, so we can look into this business about 120 days, 130 days, and I think there was still an outstanding question about how does this alter the current prevailing law. So unless it's going to do damage to the lawsuit, I don't think it would. I can't imagine. We'll put it on to the next hearing. It'll give us a couple of weeks to.
Would you like us to make a motion?
So we're going to, what I'm trying to say is we need a motion to table 502 to permit the time.
All right, why don't we go to 501 and we'll treat 502 separately.
Sounds good.
I'll start again. TF 15-16 through 501. On the vote, TF 15-16 through 465 passes with 7 ayes. 466 passes with 6 ayes and 1 abstention. 467 passes with 7 ayes. 468 passes with 6 ayes and 1 abstention. 469 through 493 passes with 7 ayes. 494 passes with 6 ayes and 1 abstention. 495 through 501 passes with 7 ayes. Now we'll get a motion, I have a motion to table 502.
Would it be table it, or would
Yeah, actually, well, it appears, I'm sorry, it appears in the form of a resolution, calling for a decision, so I assume you would have to table it, but
Okay.
if there's a simpler way to do it, I have no problem. It's a table, right?
To a certain date, to 9/27?
We, to the next hearing, next available date, we'll be ready by then.
Table 502, September 27th, 2016.
Second.
That's the next hearing date, September 27th?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, all right.
You want me to call for the vote, or would you like to do the vote?
Why don't you call for the vote, let's do it that way.
Motion made by Councilman Muscarella, second by Councilman Magno. On the vote, Supervisor Vendetta?
Aye.
Councilman Muscarella?
Aye.
Councilman Macino?
Aye.
Councilman Castro?
Aye.
Councilman Tinto?
Aye.
Councilwoman Alessia?
Aye.
Councilwoman Johnson?
Aye.
Now, Mr. Supervisor, before we add the suspend, there seems to be some confusion in the audience as to why we do this. And we did get an opinion from the state.
Why we do what, marry people?
I understand the narrative, people,
Yeah.
but it seems to be coming up more often that, when you suspend the rules and add, there seems to be some confusion with the public as to the legality of it. So what I'd like to read...
Oh, this is the response from the, yes, okay, I understand what you're saying overall. But just so everybody understands, on this particular motion, I was buying coffee one morning in a delicatessen, and the young lady behind the counter knew me and over the years and asked me if I would marry her and her betrothed. What do you call that? Betrothed.
I thought you were going to say she asked you to marry her.
No, she hasn't married. Betrothed, on September 17th. She asked me at a point in time, which was past the last hearing, but with a wedding that's going to take place on September 17th, which is prior to our next meeting. So the only meeting at which this could be done so that I could be authorized to perform the wedding was this meeting. So obviously I made a request and it appeared on the town calendar. So it was a timing issue. There was no other way to authorize me to do this unless we did it at today's meeting. Now, beyond that, as far as generally what happens with matters that are walked on or when it is suspended, I think that's what you want to address.
Exactly.
Okay, go ahead.
This was from a resident who had wrote to our committee on open government district. And the response is as follows. Your concerns appear to relate primarily to the availability of records of review by the Board of the Public prior to meeting, Section 103 of the Open Meeting states. Agency records available to the public pursuant to Article 6 of this chapter, freedom of information, as well as, I'll have this for you.
Jimmy, I think you got to ride the mic a little harder.
Right. As well as a proposed resolution, law, rules, regulations, policy, or any amendment thereto that is scheduled to be the subject of discussion by a public body during the open meeting shall be made available upon their request, therefore, to the extent practical, as determined by the agency or department prior to or at the meeting during which the records will be discussed. Copies of such records may be made available for reasonable fees, determined in the same manner as provided therefore in Article 6 of this chapter. If the agency in which the public body functions maintains the regularly and routinely updated website and utilizes a high-speed internet connection, such records shall be posted on the website to the extent practicable, as determined by the agency or the department. Prior to the meeting, the agency may, but shall not be required to expend additional monies to implement the provisions of this subdivision. The goal of 103 is simple. Those interested in the work of the public bodies shall have the ability, within reasonable limitations, to see the records scheduled to be discussed during open meetings prior to or at the meeting. Based on your description of the timeline, meetings scheduled for Tuesday, draft resolutions published on preceding Friday, and draft resolutions with supporting documents published on preceding Monday evening, and my understanding that by published you mean posted to the town's website, it appears that the town complied with the statutory requirements when those steps were taken. We refer to other situations in which the resolutions were introduced at the meeting, wherein the text of those resolutions were not made available prior to the meeting. I point out Section 103 states that the proposed resolutions shall be made available upon request, therefore, to the extent practicable, as determined by the agency or department prior to the meeting, emphasis mine. If the resolutions were drafted prior to the meeting and the town board knew that it planned to vote on the resolutions, in my opinion, the resolution should be made available pursuant to 103. However, there may be situations in which the language of the draft resolution is not available prior to the meeting. If it was not practical to make the proposed resolution available prior to or at the meeting, the open meetings law does not prohibit a body from voting on such resolutions. You referred to the absence of backup material posted on the town's website prior to meetings. In this regard, please note that 103 refers to the records that are scheduled to be subject of discussion during the open meeting. While a resolution may be scheduled to be the subject of discussion, backup material not likely scheduled to be discussed. If there is so, there is no obligation to post the material in advance of the meeting to comply with the open meetings law. Enclosed, for reference, is a copy of questions and answers relating to 103 of the open meetings law that is posted on the committee website. You indicated in your letter that the town clerk has made motions to table or pass proposed resolutions. I point out that Code 60 of the town law states, the town board constituted, 1, in every town, the supervisor and town council shall constitute the town board and shall be vested with all powers of such a town and shall possess and exercise all the powers and be subject to all the duties now and hereafter imposed by law upon the town boards and town boards of health within such towns. Section 30 of town law addresses the powers and duties of the clerk. The law states that the town clerk shall attend the meeting of the town board, act as clerk thereof, and keep a complete and accurate record of the proceedings of each meeting, and all of the propositions adopted pursuant to this chapter. In my opinion, the town board members should be making the motions, which is what you do. I call for the motion, the town board makes the motion. In my opinion, the town board members should be making the motions to vote on the board. The town's clerk responsibility is to keep a complete and accurate record of these proceedings. The clerk is not a board member. However, in my view, there is nothing in the open meetings law that would prohibit the town board from tabling a motion and reproposing it at the same meeting. You also expressed concerns that residents are not given an opportunity to question and address the town board relating to a particular resolution. In this regard, we note that although the open meetings law provides the public with the right to observe the performance of the public officials and attend and listen to the deliberations and decisions that go into making a public policy, see Open Meetings Law 100. The law is silent with respect to public participation. Consequently, by means of example, if a public body such as a town board does not want to answer a question or permit the public to speak or otherwise participate in the meeting, we do not believe that it would be obligated to do so. On the other hand, the public body may choose to answer a question and permit public participation and may do so. When a public body does permit the public to speak, we believe that it should do so based on reasonable rules that treat members of the public equally. Thank you.
But to some extent, I'm going to have to focus in on it a little bit more, but it seems to confirm the practice that we
That's
follow.
correct.
More importantly, though, with respect to public input on resolutions, while we may not be obligated to do so, I think it's a good policy that we allow. It's subject to the time limits, which,
Absolutely.
don't excite me, but I think that's fair. And I don't know that we'd be changing anything as a result of that.
Okay.
So we're going actually beyond what the open meeting law requires, is what you're saying.
That's correct.
All right, fair enough. I just want to be clear on the situation today.
Yes.
I guess that's not what this is really about. I believe I got the request after the docket closed. I'm looking, and because it was after the docket closed, there was no other way to get to the calendar except by a walk-on. Otherwise, these young people who might someday, who will someday marry and have children and everything, they wouldn't have had any of that if we didn't allow them to come to the calendar. That's the reason why we had the walk-on today.
Here we go. May I have a motion to suspend the rules and add resolution number 503, 2016?
This is the walk-on. This is the walk-on.
This is the walk-on.
So
No,
moved.
yes.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Councilor Muscarella, second by Councilor McEnroe. On the vote, Supervisor Mendel,
For the future of these two young people, I vote aye.
Councilor Muscarella,
Aye.
Councilor McEnroe,
Aye.
Councilman Cashingano,
Aye.
Councilman Pinto, Councilwoman Lessing,
Aye.
and Councilwoman Johnson.
Aye.
Motion to suspend the rules and add resolution number 503, 2016 passes with 7 ayes. May I have a motion to adopt resolution number 503, 2016? On the motion.
So moved.
Second.
No speakers?
Oh, would you like to speak?
I signed up to speak on it.
Oh, I'm sorry.
On this one, Robert?
503.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I don't have the sheet in front of me. Oh, you know what, it wasn't before, whatever, come on up.
Hi, it's Robert Ripp again. We're obviously at odds with what you're doing, suspending the rules and walking on resolutions. I don't think this is the proper format to argue it or anything, but I'd like to, at this point on the record, I'm turning in an ethics complaint, carried Supervisor Mendetto, I'm handing it to the town clerk. And specifically in regards to 503, I have a question on how this was drafted. I noticed that on the action calendar, it's listed as a walk-on resolution. I just have some questions. I spoke to the clerk before the meeting. If you look at the action calendar, it refers to a memorandum docket of August 30th. The clerk advised me that that was the day of the action calendar meeting when they met and they discussed what they were going to put on to the next meeting. All right? And when you read the resolution itself, it states that whereas John Vendetto, town supervisor, by memorandum dated September 1st, 2016, has requested that the town board appoint himself. So I came up, I actually called the clerk this morning because when you posted this, you posted the draft resolution, but you didn't post any of the supporting documents as you're required to by the Public Officers Law. So I called the clerk this morning and I asked him to get that material ready for me prior to the meeting because the Committee on Open Government, along with the information they sent to the clerk, they also included this. Mr. Altanano didn't read this. Disclosure of records scheduled to be discussed during public meetings. And it's a question of format content. And there's a question. The amendment states, that means the law 103A, that agencies should make records scheduled to be discussed during open meetings to the extent practicable as determined by the agency. What does this mean? According to an ordinary dictionary definition, practicable means feasible. To the extent practicable pertains to the ability to take reasonable steps to reasonable efforts to achieve the goals of the legislation. If a record scheduled to be discussed during an open meeting is not delivered to the clerk or other employee until a half hour prior to the meeting, it would not likely be practicable to post the record on the website in advance of the meeting. So as far as the committee, let me finish, please. I have a limited amount of time. Oh, I'm sorry. That's because this is very important stuff, and I only have. You think it's funny, Mr. Vendetto? Okay. So the bottom line is today.
Hey, fellas, the fact that I smile doesn't mean.
Oh, you're having a good time.
Hold on. It's not chargeable to your time. Relax. The fact that I smile means I'm a nice fellow. That's all it means. It doesn't mean I'm laughing or so don't read anything into it. Jim, let him finish his statement. Slow down, though.
You'll allow me to go if I have to?
Slow down.
Thank you very much.
Finish your statement and do it.
Thank you. I'm just trying to conform to the rules.
Stop talking for a minute do it in a manner that the steno can get it all down, and we'll give you a little extra time, so.
Okay. So as far as, I'll read that again then, okay? The Committee on Open Government, along with their response to one of my recent requests for an advisory opinion, forwarded what Mr. Altadon just read to everyone, but they also forwarded this additional document. It's questions and answers regarding records discussed at open meetings. Disclosure of records scheduled to be discussed during open meetings. And what it says is, it's in a question and format answer, and it says, the amendment states that agencies should make records scheduled to be discussed during...
Rob, you need to slow down for this.
I'm sorry, apologies. The amendment states that agencies should make records scheduled to be discussed during open meetings to the extent practicable as determined by the agency. What does that mean? The answer is, this is what the answer according to the Committee on Open Government. According to an ordinary dictionary definition, practicable means feasible. To the extent practicable pertains to the ability to take reasonable steps through reasonable efforts to achieve the goals of the legislation. If a record scheduled to be discussed during an open meeting is not delivered to the clerk or other employee until a half hour prior to the meeting, it would not likely be practicable to post the record on the website in advance of the meeting. So I get the opinion that the Committee on Open Government is saying that anything that you know of up to half an hour before the meeting should be posted. In direct response to 503, I noticed on the action calendar post on Friday that you included this as a suspend the rules walk-on. I don't really understand if you had it prior to the meeting, why you would have to suspend the rules, but on the action calendar, it makes reference to the memorandum docket of August 30th of 2016. The clerk explained to me that that's not the date of the document, that's the date they had the meeting, okay? The resolution makes reference to a memorandum prepared by you, Mr. Supervisor, that's dated September 1st. When I asked for a copy of that memorandum this morning, because, let me just step back, I noticed that the town clerk omitted the follow-up, the supporting documents when this draft resolution was posted, so I called this morning and I requested this information be made available to me prior to the meeting. And when I spoke to Mr. Altadon about it this morning, first he explained to me that the memorandum docket meeting was held on August 30th, and then when I asked him, well, according to the resolution, the town supervisor by memorandum dated September 1st requested that he appoint himself. I'd like a copy of that memorandum. First I was told that you did it by oral request. And then when I thought about it a second and I came back up and I spoke to the clerk, then I was told that you did do it by written request, and I got a copy of the request. So number one, it makes me feel that you're being misleading and you're lying to me. But number two, and what I really don't understand is, if the memorandum docket...
Who's lying to you?
I don't know. Somebody was saying that you made this request by oral motion. That's what the clerk told me. Now let me just finish, please. But you didn't write it. But more importantly, what I really don't understand is, if the memorandum docket meeting was held on August 30th, that would be adding this, I guess, to the meeting, and your letter's dated September 1st, how could the memorandum docket meeting have your letter?
I could be, but you gotta stop now, because we're way over the time limit. I'm trying to give you a short and simple answer, but I may need help with it. I believe, if these are our internal rules now, I believe that if the docket meeting is only 1 week away from the calendar, it wouldn't matter. You see, if the docket meeting is 2 weeks out, then it would go, Len, I was looking for you as a deputy supervisor.
It's actually pretty simple. The docket meets every Wednesday. For an item not to be marked either a suspended or walk-on, it has to be received by the docket committee or memorandum docket at least 2 weeks prior to the board. If it happens at any point subsequent to 2 weeks, it would be marked suspended. The board will look at the vote on it.
That's not my question. My question is, if the docket board met on August 30th, how could they discuss a letter that you wrote on September 1st? That's my question. I mean, you posted on the action calendar memorandum docket August 30th.
Right.
How could they do anything on August 30th with a letter that you wrote the next day?
All that's done is administratively, it's referred to as an added starter for us. When a request like that comes in and it's time sensitive.
Yeah, it started with a verbal request from me. That's how it started, because I panicked, and I was saying to myself, uh-oh, I promised this couple I would marry them. I hope I can get the authority in time. As it turns out, I can, by virtue of what we're doing here today. And I verbally, I don't know, Stephen, who did I tell? Stephen Marks. Did I tell you originally about this?
Yes, you did, sir.
And asked you to take care of it?
And that's what I did, correct.
And he took care of it. And it culminated with, started out, or it culminated with a written request, which I guess you prepared, I don't even know.
Yeah, had the office prepared.
Okay, had the office prepared, and here we are. And it was not within 2 weeks of the calendar, so that's why it's a walk-on. It's really not that complicated.
I think, I'm a little confused, because if the board met on the 30th, and you signed a letter on the 1st, how would they, I don't understand, how did they, I mean, are you allowed to make oral requests to have resolutions done?
I just told you how it happened. I made Stephen Marks aware of it, and then he ultimately put it in writing. So I don't know what's so...
I don't know the exact dates, but it's right around there.
Well, how did you put on, I'm sorry, but how did you put on the draft, on the town calendar? Why did you add the memorandum docket of August 30th? How could you do that? You added something on the calendar as if the memorandum docket meeting addressed this, and then the supporting documents, first of all, the resolution itself says that it was done by memorandum.
Rob, that's why it's a suspend item. That's exactly why it's a suspend item, for the reasons you just said.
That makes no sense at all. That you're telling me that they're suspending this based on a letter that they got the day after they had the meeting. Is that your answer?
No, that's not what we're saying. That's not what we're saying at all. I told you that I verbally told Mr. Marks to make sure he attended to this item so I would be fully authorized to perform this wedding on September 17th. I verbally said that to Mr. Marks. He then engaged the process. It culminated with a writing on, I guess it was September 1st, is that the day of the writing? I haven't seen it. I don't have it in front of me, rather. And that's it. And because it was not within more than 2 weeks away from the calendar, it becomes a suspend item. That's what happened.
That part's irregardless. If you made an oral request to Mr. Marks, what did he do? Go to the memorandum meeting and say, the supervisor has an oral request, he's going to date it tomorrow, he's going to write the letter tomorrow?
Yeah, I don't, but it doesn't matter. We're already...
It matters to me.
Well, but we've answered it. We've answered it as best we can. We can't really do any better than that.
Thank you very much.
We told you exactly...
Oh, one last question.
No, Robert, wait, don't go away.
Okay.
We told you exactly what happened. That is exactly the sequence of events, and why it resulted in a suspension. But we really got to go now.
Are you going to charge him? That's the last question, because I know part of... You're not going to charge him? Okay, thank you.
But I'll tell you one thing, when I married them, they say married.
All right, good.
All right, and Mr. Muscarella.
Supervisor, I'll make a motion that this...
Nobody called 503. Call, please.
Did you get them? Change batteries when they go into executive session.
Yes. Go ahead.
Supervisor Bandera?
I vote aye.
Councilman Muscarella?
Aye.
Councilman McEnroe?
I hope the marriage is less rocky than this.
Councilman Cashagano? Aye. Councilman Pinto? Aye. Councilwoman Alessio?
I do.
Motion to adopt resolution number 503, 2016 passes with 7 ayes. We're good.
Now, before we close the meeting and go into executive session, at the request of Councilman Cashagano, Mr. Deputy Commissioner Zeik, you are invited front and center. The councilman wants you to brief us on...
Yeah, Supervisor, just if I can.
Yeah, why don't you take it from here?
I know 1 or 2 residents had questions about the Stillwater property and also the Dolphin Beach Club. And I know Councilman Muscarella was going to make a motion to head to executive session, and frequently that does take significant time. So rather than have the residents wait and not have this information prior, Deputy Commissioner Tim Zeik is here, and I was wondering, Deputy, if you could please speak to both situations.
So this is really a response to prior questions that have been raised.
Yes, and I know the deputy's done significant work between the last 2 meetings on both of these subjects. I, unfortunately or fortunately, it was away the last few days. I have not gotten my own briefing, and I think it's an appropriate time for us all to get up here. If that pleases the board.
It's fine with me. This is in response to prior questions that have been asked.
Yes, and for current status.
Sure. Mr. Supervisor and Board, just to bring you up to speed as to what's happened with regard to 135 Stillwater Avenue in Massapequa. I had reached out to the property owner. They had met with me personally up in my office, where I informed them that there was a code compliance case and a formal complaint submitted against their property, alleging that they had no COs, some construction and some structures that were built without building permits. I made them aware that they did have these allegations outstanding. They were very cooperative. They are willing to work towards compliance. We went through a whole litany of everything they needed to file for. They need to renew their old building permit for the original house construction back in 2001. They took an additional building permit application for some additional structures and items that were on the property that did not have any permits. They'll be required to get their final building inspections, their final plumbing inspections, and an electrical certificate of approval for all the electrical work that was done on the property as well. I gave them about a 30-day period to get all this information submitted to me, because one of the first items I need is an updated property survey, and that does take some time to get from a land surveyor. So once they obtained a land survey, they were going to contact me and we were going to continue with finishing their permitting process. That's basically the report on 135 Stillwater Avenue, if there are any questions.
Okay.
I don't have questions, but I know the residents.
Well, that'll be reserved for public comment.
That's not the ridiculous. The issue,
I see, this is why.
that's not the issue now. The issue is the misappropriation of the municipal funds.
Hold
How,
on.
how is this
Rob,
resident getting $33,000?
Rob, the last time I looked, I still chaired the meeting, okay? You finished your statement, Tim?
Yes, sir.
Is there anything else you want to do now, Councilman?
At some point, just we're gonna have to continue to answer questions as they evolve, so I don't know if now is an appropriate time.
I'll leave it up to you, it's your call.
Come on.
You want? Okay. You know what, you chair the meeting, you take over the phone. You and Rob.
Hello, my name is Robert Ripp from Mass Speaker again. Listen, it's fantastic that you're addressing the code enforcement issues here, but that is not the heart of this issue. The heart of this issue is that somehow the consultant, Frank Antotomaso, Sidney Baum, was able to work through the system the town has and authorize, and you already voted on this resolution, so technically the homeowner could probably be suing you right now to get the money, but he authorized in my opinion, it's a misappropriation of government funds. He authorized a payment of $32,000 to the homeowner based on construction work that when you review the records, Frank Antotomaso did all the work for this gentleman. He did the plans, he did the sketches, he did everything. There's nobody else involved, okay? That is the issue, not the code enforcement stuff.
Correct, the code enforcement stuff came to light during the process. The payment, to my knowledge, I'll look at Mr. D'Arienzo, is still on hold, I believe. So no payment's been made.
Thank you, and I appreciate, Mr. Councilman, I appreciate everything that you're doing this because you are interested in open, transparent government. Thank you, sir.
We're all trying, I guess. Mr. McKenna, did you have a question on this?
No.
Or the other project?
You're going to talk about Dolphin now?
Yes.
Dolphin's next.
Okay, we're set with 135 Stillwater then? With regard to the Dolphin Beach Club, as it's known as, it's 2 Dolphin Drive. Myself, Stephen Marks from the supervisor staff, we had met with the Massapequa Shore Civic Association who owns the property down there. We did meet with them. Again, made them aware that there was a code compliance case and a formal complaint made against the property. We went through in detail in terms of what they would need to file for. They were made aware of the fact that there are, again, the allegations with regard to certain items on the property that do require building permits. Again, they appear to be very cooperative. They seem to be working or willing to work towards compliance. And again, they needed some time to put together a property survey, which will take some time. Once they obtain their property survey, they agreed to get back in touch with the Department of Planning and Development and go through with their permits.
Now, they have 30 days to do that, right?
That's correct.
To get a survey. And we're still on the same belief that it's 169 owners?
That's correct, according to the county assessor's records.
So each homeowner owns 1/169th of the property. That hasn't changed. That's back to the original information we found out.
That's correct, as recorded by the deeds in Nassau County.
So they'll be in touch when they have their survey prepared?
That's correct.
I don't have any questions, but I will probably be fielding questions, so
it's up to you. You
You
really,
guys have- do you have any-
in fact, we're really
Mr.
chairing
McKenna, I
this.
think, had one.
Okay.
Just for the public's information, this property happens to be adjacent to Frank Antitomaso's house. What a coincidence. One of the questions that you were looking into was, who did the construction work on the seawall and on the property? Do we know that yet?
I think we do.
The seawall construction, that was part of the Two Dolphin Drive, excuse me, was actually done by the adjacent property owner at One Dolphin Drive, and that was part of his permit application that was filed back in 2008.
By chance, was it high-rise engineering?
I would have to check the records as to who the contractor was. I don't recall that offhand.
Okay. Just point of reference, if it is high-rise engineering, my other question was, is the town still doing work with them, which is a different matter. But high-rise engineering, I don't know whether you're aware, is under indictment right now as of August 1st for misappropriation of FEMA funds for this type of work. So just take that for whatever it's worth. Okay? I have the information here.
Do we even, is it high-rise? Do we even know?
Supervisor, I'd have to double check who the contractor was.
We also know, Supervisor, I think Mr. Zeig asked a question on the funding for the development, I believe, was discussed.
With regard to the allegation of any type of FEMA funds or any type of monies from the town of Oyster Bay being spent at the property, there were no monies spent from the town of Oyster Bay, nor money or no money allocated from FEMA, to my understanding. We checked with all our various town departments. In terms of the improvements, they were funded solely by the civic association that operates the land, and for any type of tables, chairs, furniture and things like that, that was also paid for directly by the civic association.
At the last meeting, someone said that you were going to check, because a lot of the benches and umbrellas and there's a huge TV there. Someone was going to check to see if it in fact was Town of Oyster Bay property that was used there. Has that been done? You said you were going to do that.
Again, the civic association made it clear, and they have all paperwork to document it, that they had purchased all that equipment on their own.
Somebody handed me a document with high-rise I know it too. Is this yours, son?
Yeah, you could have it.
No, I'm sorry, I got the name of the company.
Okay. And then the other issue, the other big issue, I think, which was open at the last meeting, is the fact that the property in Nassau County is listed as Town of Oyster Bay property, and it's listed as vacant property. It's my understanding, as we stand here right now, that there are no taxes being paid to Nassau County at all on that property because of the confusion where allegedly the property was deeded to the 169 residents back originally. That might be the case, but it appears that there's no taxes being paid on the property. Can you shed any light on that today?
Again, based on the research I looked at, I believe there might have been a typo or some type of error. I believe there was paperwork that did show that the town of Oyster Bay did own the property, I believe on like the town's website or something along those lines, but I think that might have been an error. Again, if you do pull the physical deeds that are maintained by the county clerk's office, it does show back in the 1950s, 1955, that the property was deeded over to 169 people. And the more recent sales of the properties of the 169 homes do show a rider saying that along with the sale of the principal property, there's a share of 169th share of the parcel that we're talking about at 2 Dolphin Drive that goes along with the property. In terms of the taxes, I really can't address it. That's really the county assessor. But again, based on research that I did, looking at the original property card, there's a notation on there that states that the price is reflected in the following section block and lot numbers, and it lists 100 somewhat section block and lots. I would imagine that pay the taxes based on that notation that's on the county assessment card.
Okay, but if a title, I'm not really, well, if a title search was done by a title company, they would find the deeds with the reference to the 169th in the deed, am I correct?
Correct. Like I said, the more recent deed that was sold shows the principal property, as well as a rider attached to it saying 169th of a share of property known as section block and lot.
My final point is a question. 135 Stillwater and 2 Dolphin. Again, I appreciate everything that you've done to get us to be able to be here right now. It seems to me a lot of people here don't realize the size and scope, especially of 2 Dolphin, the amount of work that was done there, seawalls, and it's a huge amount of money that was outlaid. I doubt very much that the association paid for that. But are they being handled by the town of Oyster Bay, planning and development? Are they being handled the same way that another resident would be handled? I have a friend of mine who recently was selling his house, and the amount of aggravation that was caused to him for hedges around his property on a corner. I mean, the amount of time that the town of Oyster Bay put to cause him havoc. Is 2 Dolphin and 135 Stillwater, are they being handled the same way that another resident would be handled? Why, it appears to me that they're being handled with kid gloves, and I'd like to know why.
If I may, we are treating just like we would any other resident. We receive code compliance complaints on both properties. Both properties were brought up as a measure during town board hearings. So in terms of doing the physical outreach, I was asked by Councilman Casciano to do it on their behalf, but ultimately the goal with the department is really compliance. And whether it's myself or a code enforcement officer doing it, the ultimate goal is going to be achieved.
And I just want to make a point of letting you know that this vacant property also has running water.
I'm sorry.
Running water is actually...
Kevin, which vacant property, I'm sorry?
2 Dolphin. Okay, adjacent to Frank Antitommaso's house, there is running water. I'm curious to know who's paying for that running water. But again, the amount of violations there that they're allowed to continue operation is just beyond me, because a friend of mine who has hedges, compared to this, what's going on there, it's absurd that something fishy something's rotten in Oyster Bay.
Mr. Supervisor, that question came up during the meeting. They do have a water bill that is given to them by the,
Who's that?
I'm sorry, the Massapequa Shore Civic Association that owns and operates the beach. They do receive a water bill from the local water district, and there are 2 fixtures of running water that come off that water meter down there.
Okay, are they paying these bills?
They said that they pay their bills, and they do have a bill from the local water district.
Okay, very good. All right, I'm sorry, Council.
I have something on that.
To the council.
Show on on.
Hello again, my name is Robert Riff from Massapequa again. So I just want to explain that I had an opportunity to review the building files associated with these properties, 135 Stillwater, 1 Dolphin Place, and 2 Dolphin Place. And what I find really amazing is that the owner of 1 Dolphin Place, Frank Antitommaso, who is principal in Sydney Baum, it's the town's premier, one of the town's premier consulting engineering firms. He filed his application as permits to build a seawall, and he filed to build a seawall on the adjoining property lot, the two Dolphin Place lot, and he did so with a letter of permission from the Massapequa Shore Civic Association. But what I don't understand is, there is no building file for 2 Dolphin Place. So I don't understand how the town's premier consultant could have filed building permit applications or didn't file building permit applications. It doesn't matter. He filed the necessary applications for his property, but there should have been applications and permits filed for the fixtures that are built on the 2 Dolphin Place property. Okay? So now, In 2008, Mr. Antetomaso did his seawall, did all his work and everything. I've made a complaint in regards to that. And in 2008, Mr. Antetomaso knew that there was no building file, in my opinion, should have known that there was no building file for the adjoining property. Now, I really find it a coincidence that the town of Oyster Bay has been holding that property as if they owned it all this time. It seems like it could have been a quid pro quo to me. Don't pay your tax if you let me build my wall on your property. I'd like to ask Mr. Zeig, have any notices of violation been issued to any of these property owners? Because that is the first step in a code compliance. Well, if the code compliance officer, from what I understand from my experiences, if he responds on a request for investigation and he makes an observation that could be a violation, the first step is to file a notice of violation. This is what happened to me. You get 10 days to come in compliance. If you don't come in compliance, or at least work something out with the code enforcement that you're trying to come in compliance, then you get the summons. So when Mr. McKenna was speaking about kid gloves, this is what he's talking about. Have there any actual notices of violation been issued in this case? Thank you.
The answer is no. Again, it was a verbal notice that I gave once I met with the residents themselves. Typically, a notice of violation is basically putting someone on notice or making them aware that there's a violation. Obviously, I did it in person, and they acknowledged it, and it would be the same course of action. If they're not willing to comply.
Which property are you talking about?
I apologize, Supervisor.
I think it applies to
Both
both.
135 Stillwater Avenue and 2 Dolphin Drive.
So they both have 30 days to begin compliance, otherwise the next step would be
Going to court at that point.
I'm sorry, but why did they get a special deal? Everybody, let me come up. I'm sorry, but Robert Ripp again, Master Speaker. Every other resident in the town gets 10 days to come in compliance. Why are these people getting a special deal that code enforcement, Mr. Zeig, he's the deputy commissioner, he should know the rules. He went and he gave them like a verbal or oral deal. That's baloney. Notice of violation should have been signed off on right then. They should have 10 days to respond in writing that they're attempting to come in compliance. Then if you want to extend it, that would be fair. But everybody else gets the NOV in 10 days, and that's it. You are treating these people with kid gloves.
The notice of violation though seems to be the same thing, whether it's verbal or writing.
No, sir. It's an official document. It leads to the issuance of a summons.
I understand what you're saying, but I think they've been placed on notice, and correct me if I'm wrong, if they don't comply, they go to court.
I also kept notes in file for each meeting I had just to memorialize them, so we do have it documented that these discussions.
I think they both also need to go out and get a survey, right?
That's correct.
So
That's fine, but to do it officially.
Maybe to give them time to get a survey, I guess.
That would be fine, sir, but to do it officially, the first thing that should be done is if the officer, the code enforcement investigator observes a violation, it's the issuance of a notice of violation.
I understand what you're saying.
Especially in this case.
They've also both been brought to town hall to deal with their, situation, so it's pretty official.
Okay, thank you.
And we'll keep on top of it.
No, I know you are, and I really appreciate it. I know that you're doing everything in your power, sir. I appreciate it immensely. Thank you very much.
All right, in light of what I heard a lot of, in my opinion, I think, maybe, so I'm going to ask the councilman to continue your pursuit.
We'll keep working on it.
Yeah, keep working on it, and you'll update the board accordingly. There's a lot of conjecture and speculation here, and one way or the other, I think you need to resolve all of these issues. I'm not quite sure what all the issues are, but I would assume that you have them in your head. You'll continue to work with Mr. Dyke to get us answers. Again, I'm not sure what the questions are, but I'll leave that up to you since you have a handle on it. All right, very good. Mr. Mascarello, I can.
Supervisor, I make a motion that this town board go into executive session for the purpose of discussing matters leading to the...
Stop. Mayor Watson, former Mayor Watson of Village of Bayville. Doug, I'm sorry.
I forgot what I wanted to say. I have a quality of life thing that I think you're going to love, because I know that you like quality of life issues. Prior to PSC&G taking over the electric service, we had a various array of electric companies in Lightbird and Nilco and all these different things. And part of the cost would be a car would hit a pole, the pole would break, the electric company would come out, put a new pole, and cut the service down to what they call the third-party providers. The third-party providers are not good at providing third-party service when it comes to changing those broken poles. They even have a term for it, they call it double wood, okay? Which if you can't fix something, I guess just make up a name for it. Why I'm here right now is I'm observing in Laddingtown and also in Glen Cove, which is not your area. They're putting in, PSE&G is doing a very good job. They're hardening the system. They're putting in these big poles, they're changing the three-phase service. But they're cutting the old poles down, and I have a feeling that they don't want the third-party providers on these new poles. Now, I don't know that because I don't have an office anymore to meet with these people and make the calls. So I'm asking if your office could do it through the town attorney's office, find out what's going on with these people, and I'm going to reach out to Mayor Spinello in Glen Cove and to find out exactly what the future holds, because when they do the franchise agreement, they want a level playing field. Well, we want one too. If they're gonna have two poles, they should pay for two poles. In my opinion, I mean, that's...
No, you know what, Mayor, I'm not being a wise guy. Stephen Marks from my staff, he'll carry the ball on this one, but I would like you to...
I'll give you my information, and I would like to know, you know, and if there's any involvement, because... Yeah, I would appreciate that.
Yeah.
That's all, I just want to leave you with that.
Perfect.
Have a nice day.
You too now, take care. All right, Mr. Musgrove, I'm sorry, I stole you.
Supervisor, I make a motion that this town board go into executive session for the purpose of discussing matters leading to the appointment, employment, or promotion of particular persons, and to discuss proposed pending or current litigation.
Second. All in favor? Opposed, so moved. We stand in executive session, and we will see you later.
You filming? This is a great meeting.